Those who cannot attend in person this evening are joining us via Zoom webinar. Welcome. I'd like to ask everybody to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we'll go ahead and take a roll call. Director Victoria Bradford.
Here.
Director Rob Perkins.
Here.
Director Julie Bocanegra.
Here.
Superintendent John Boyd.
Here.
Administrative Assistant Lori Stroll.
I'm like, which one? Are we here or not?
All right, next on the agenda is the land acknowledgement, and Director Bradford's going to go ahead and read that for us.
I'd be honored to. Evergreen Public Schools resides on the traditional lands of the Shinokan peoples and the Cowlitz tribe. They have lived on and cared for this land and its waterways since time immemorial. We thank them for their stewardship and make this acknowledgement to open a space of recognition, inclusion, and respect for all Indigenous students, families, and staff in our community.
Thank you. Okay, next is the adoption of the agenda. I'd like to ask for a motion.
I move to adopt tonight's agenda as presented.
Second.
It's moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Next is special recognition. First item on the agenda is Black History Month, and I'm going to go ahead and call Executive Director of Equity and Inclusion, Clarissa Hightower, to read a statement.
Good evening, members of the board and community. Lift every voice and sing. These are the first 5 words of the Black National Anthem, a song that was recognized by the NAACP for its power in voicing a cry for liberation and affirmation of Black people. The song intentionally invites every voice to sing for liberation and affirmation. The Black community has and continues to have a powerful and positive impact on our society. With contributions as well known as the traffic light, invented by Garrett Morgan, to the extraordinary cells from the body of Henrietta Lacks that led to significant advances in medicine. These contributions and many more are a profound reason to lift our voices in celebration. This month, we celebrate Black history, and we echo the sentiment of the Black National Anthem, and we invite every voice to celebrate with us as we honor and highlight the Black experience. Let this opportunity be an inspiring window into an amazing and varied diaspora of Black people, as well as an empowering mirror of affirmation that our Black community matters. Happy Black History Month.
Thank you, Clarissa. All right, next is our National School Counseling Week, and Director Bocanegra is going to go ahead and read the proclamation.
Are we ready to go ahead and read it?
Do we have Christine Hill with us? You want to go ahead and come on up while we read the proclamation? Go ahead.
All right, National School Counseling Week. This is the proclamation. Whereas school counselors are employed in public and private schools to help students reach their full potential, and whereas school counselors are actively committed to helping students explore their abilities, strengths, interests, and talents as these traits relate to career awareness and development, and whereas school counselors help parents focus on ways to further the educational, personal, and social growth of their children, and whereas school counselors work with teachers and other educators to help students explore their potential and set realistic goals for themselves, and whereas school counselors seek to identify and utilize community resources that can enhance and complement comprehensive school counseling programs and help students become productive members of society. And whereas comprehensive developmental school counseling programs are considered an integral part of the educational process that enables all students to achieve success in school. Therefore, the Board of Directors of Evergreen Public Schools do hereby proclaim February 7th through 11th, 2022 as National School Counseling Week.
Are we presenting that to her?
Well, it's just,
Are we,
I don't think it's the official one, is it?
is that the official? Oh,
Oh, they've got it right there.
Larissa has it.
There we go.
I was like, where's the official one?
Oh,
Go for it.
I was just like,
I know, I was like, I thought there was one. Photo op. Absolutely.
I appreciate you inviting me on behalf of all school counselors and social workers in the pre-K through 12th grade model that we have here. And I couldn't have said what you said any better. So that was perfect. As you were saying, and I was like, yep, that's what we do all day, every day. And our hope is exactly what you said, is that making lifelong learners, just not today, not just tomorrow, but way in the future too. So thank you for your support. And allowing us to do our job that I know I've enjoyed for the last 30 years. This is year 30. So anyway, thank you very much.
thank you. I mean, counselors are more important than ever right now. And, you know, and I know that Rob and myself and like working with legislative and trying to make sure that we have funding because we need more. And so thank you for what you do for our students.
Thank you, especially with Senate Bill, 5030 coming out and us looking at that comprehensive program and so forth. So it's going to be great, and I'm excited to see where it's going to lead us in the future in Evergreen. So thank you.
Yeah, I just want to also reiterate, don't go away too fast now.
Sorry.
That all of us have had the benefits of our exceptional school counselors for our children's needs over the years, whether it be for counseling for college, whether it would be special needs. I know when we had my husband passed away when my girls were in elementary school. It was a school counselor that pulled the grief committee together in that school that really helped my girls through a very challenging time. And so I think that, and I know that the rest of the board have had their moments. Our students rely on you so much, and we appreciate you.
Thank you.
It was about 7 years ago when our family found we needed the school social worker and the counselor very badly with one of our kids and his needs. And I think with them, we were able to identify some things and get him on a path to healing from his crisis. But one of the fun parts about that is that it's the student safety room, the workroom off the office at BBC. His counselor was that person who helped. His counselor today is that person who helped him. And I was actually able to use that story in advocacy when we were talking about. You said it was 50-30, an expansion of funding for nurses, counselors, and so forth. As just this, story to go with the data. And I appreciate and this, like Victoria said, could not have done without the contributions that they made to my children's lives.
Excellent, thank you. It's good to hear good news because we don't always get to hear good news on the counseling front, especially elementary, right? It usually hits more later, but we love hearing great success stories and that we're able to make a difference because that's why we're in it, all of us. And I'm speaking on behalf of everybody, which I will share this next week at the Job Alike meeting and let them know your kind words.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate it.
Thank you, and hopefully you'll give us 30 more.
I don't know if I have 30 in me. I'm just
Okay.
going to be honest. I have a lot of gray hair that I'm masking right now. But I'm not done. Retirement is not in the foresight right now. So, yes, you'll have more years.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next on the agenda is the superintendent consent agenda. Can I entertain a motion? Oh, sorry, I was looking down at the other one. The board consent agenda.
I move to adopt tonight's board consent agenda.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, now on to the superintendent's consent agenda. Entertain a motion?
I move adoption of the superintendent's consent agenda.
Second.
All right, moved in second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. We are next on to the superintendent report. John.
Thank you very much. Well, had my first official week last week and my first official 2 days of this week, so I'm 7 days into the job and really enjoying it. I'm really enjoying the people. I felt incredibly welcomed by all the community, the staff, the board, and I want to thank everybody for that warm welcome. And I want to just share with you that one of the things that I'm doing is preparing an entry plan. And I provided copies for the board to look at that entry plan. The goals of the entry plan are based on my conversations with the board and the cabinet staff. And I have 5 goal areas and then some specific actions. And I'm monitoring those actions to provide feedback for the board. So I would welcome, it's still in draft form, but it's going to go pretty quickly. I've got a few more things to do to make it complete, but it'll then go to its final form. We can always add to it, but I would really appreciate and enjoy some feedback if you have a chance to look at it and let me know if I'm on target with what you want from me. And so in the spirit of that, there were the report I'm going to give today are in line with those specific goals. The strategic planning process is, I've met twice with the team now, and I'm finally starting to get a really good sense of what's been done to date and how that's moving forward. And it's really moving forward in a robust way. I have a lot of confidence in the team, and we're just beginning now to start conceptualizing those stakeholder feedback pieces. So that'll be exciting. And we'll have, I think, a report. Do we have a report today or next week on the strategic plan? And we'll keep you updated on it so that the board members can be involved in those stakeholder listening sessions and hear and listen and learn as well. So the other piece is building a cohesive team. I've been working with our cabinet team. I think I've led now 3 meetings, and our work, I think we had a meeting today that really went over well. We've been doing some team building, developing purpose statements and clear norms of how we not only interact together, but how we challenge each other in a good, healthy, productive way so that we can support the rest of the district to move forward. And so we've continued to do those team building, and we did our meeting in exactly an hour and a half today, so we're getting better at working together. The other thing is, just my entry plan. Would love some feedback from the board on that. I'd appreciate any of it, and make sure it's in line with what you're hoping for my leadership now and in the future.
Thank you. All right. We have an update from Teaching and Learning from Julie Tumulty. Thank you, Julie.
Hi, good evening. Tonight, I wanted to give you guys an update on, in December, we did 2 surveys. We did the Academic and Student Wellbeing Recovery Plan survey. That survey went out to all community members and was to garner feedback about uses and planning for ESSER funds and our recovery plan. The survey went out through our district email, and there is a link on our website to it. We also solicited survey through the staff well-being survey that went out also. So these 2 areas of survey. So the community survey, we got 287 responses. The staff well-being survey, we got 1,559 responses. The community survey is still active, so I just pulled the data again today just to see if there's different trends that come. But what we're looking at and what we're planning for is our next 1.5 years of recovery plans and looking at the trends of that data. So some of the things the TLE team has done is really focused in on what are our goals of our recovery plan. So our 4 goals are to foster joy and engagement in learning, build relationships, support completion of unfinished learning, and provide access to grade level learning. What we saw through, or what I saw through the surveys, was there's a lot of requests for social emotional support. There's a lot of requests for tutoring, summer school, behavior support, things we've heard the themes. There was not anything necessarily that was surprising in the themes, but I think it was really good feedback to know that we're on the right track. So as we think about the social emotional lessons you guys heard about a couple weeks ago when Jamie Johnston was here talking about the work that he's done with the social emotional team, we're currently planning for summer school. So that's going to be July 11th through August 5th. And we're looking at what data are we pulling to who should we target for summer school. Last year for summer school, our goals was an experience back in, a good school experience. So it was open to everyone, free summer school for 4 weeks, and it was this huge outreach. We got a lot of students involved, and this year, what we're really looking at is who's below grade level, who is going to be struggling, and who do we need to work on specifically. So I think this year, and it's still in the planning stages, but really looking at the data from what we saw from those 2 surveys, and hearing from principals on the ground right now, the struggles, the teachers, like what do we need for summer school that's going to continue to help bridge the gap? And that's one of the pieces I think we're looking at is more of a targeted population. So I'll be providing you more updates on summer school as they come, but that's the planning really for middle school and elementary school right now. Our high school, we're still looking at bridging the gap with credits and how students are doing with the missed credits due to COVID, the no credit grades they got, the incomplete grades they got. So the planning is still on that side. And then the other thing we're looking at is tutoring. So what are the opportunities for tutoring? We have a pretty solid tutoring plan through LAP and how they have done tutoring. So we're looking at the ways that we can expand that and what that means. Tutoring in a lot of ways means that to a parent, I see that means my student has been seen. They have a direct relationship with someone. So what are the ways that tutoring specifically in a one-on-one or two-on-one can be pretty cost prohibitive? So we're looking at ways that how can we communicate to parents that your child is seen, we have a plan for their learning, and we're going to continue that. So going on like those tenets of what that means and building those programs. So we're in the midst of building the programs. We don't have a specific plan or anything to show you yet, but I wanted you to know that we had collected that data, and now we're looking at what the plans can be. And the summer school plan, we do have a date, which is great because we can start building off that. So that's where I'm at. Questions?
I have a question. How many students do we anticipate?
We have not come up with that data. So what we need to do is pull the data on how many. So students right now are in the middle of their second iReady. So that will be a really good measurement. We had the fall iReady, which was in September. They're doing their second iReady right now, which closes the end of this month. So that's the data that we'll use to look at it. And then it's always a how much can we offer? How many teachers do we have available? And then how many students. So last year when we set the number of sites, we had more staff that was available, so we opened up another site. So I think that will be a little bit of the data that we look at is who is most at need, make sure we get that first and that covered, and then if we could open up more sites, we'd go off those rosters.
Thanks, Julie. Do we have any plans for additional tutoring during the school year, like after-school programs I know one example would be the one that was at Union that, well, before COVID, I don't know if it's come back.
It's still doing, yeah.
Okay, so those
The
kinds
high
of things are
schools-
back in action and,
Some of them. So at a recent secondary principal meeting, we polled them, like what are the current tutoring programs happening in secondary schools? And the 4 high schools have some sort of tutoring program going, and they have the extracurricular bus, which is really helpful with that. Some of it gets run through a leadership teacher and their like freshman success teams. So there's a different opportunities for that. We're looking at ways we can connect with those programs. In middle school, we have the Gear Up program that does tutoring that we're looking at also, like what are the ways to connect with? And then there's always some hurdles with transportation or how we stay, but that is part of it, of what can we do this school year. So the tutoring is specifically to the school year is what we're thinking of more than summer tutoring this school year and then all next year. So what is that year and a half plan? Because we know it's not finished in this school year.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. All right, thank you.
That's good.
Thank you, Julie. All right, equity inclusion update. We got Clarissa Hightower for an update. Thank you.
All right, since we last met, our team helped to kick off Black History Month by providing resources for teachers to utilize to help celebrate Black history. Our equity advancement specialists curated those resources and provided them for teachers. Some of them have also done some teach-ins or taken some opportunity to do some co-teaching with teachers in classrooms around Black History Month. And some of those are a continuation of the lessons that our equity advancement specialist, Charlotte Larte, created for the Covington lessons that I told you all about that Jamie presented on. We're trying to make sure that things are connected and they don't feel like these separate things that are happening. That's a very intentional way for us to provide this kind of support. In addition, our director of DEI, Jamila Singleton, was out recently in Henrietta Lacks School doing some professional development with teachers on microaggressions and ways in which things that we say could potentially unintentionally cause harm in the classroom. And so just talking through that with teachers. We also onboarded our community engagement and enrichment coordinator. We were able to do that with the help of Title IV funds. So Karen Fox helped us to be able to do that. And so his first day, his name is Jamal McKenzie. His first day was on Monday. And so we onboarded him. He is getting very acquainted with our student engagement specialists, our FCRC coordinators, our attendance specialist. And so he's putting a plan together for what effective community engagement and enrichment will look like by doing some of his own research at this time. And finally, we have our next Equity Advisory Committee meeting this week on February 10th on Thursday. And so we'll be meeting with folks looking at our subcommittee work. We'll have Pam, our math TOSA, come in and talk with us about, she wants some feedback on something. That's what the advisory and advisory committee is for. So she'll be there for that. And hopefully we can further support Susan in her efforts with the Students Advocating for Equity Committee. Are there any questions?
I don't have any. Rob, do you have any questions?
No, thank you.
Okay,
Wonderful.
thank you.
Thanks, Clarissa.
Thank you, Clarissa. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is to go over the procedures for students on governing boards, which is me. So I updated the policy number 1250 to reflect that we are seating 2 of our high school student representatives, a junior and senior from each high school. Prior to that, it just said 2 student representatives. There was nothing else on that. Does anybody have any?
Just a correction of the school district number.
Yeah. Well, you know, if you hit the shift button and hit 3, it gives you a pound sign, so.
I do it all the time. Just noticing today.
Anything else on that one? To the second. All right, if there's nothing else on that one, I entertain a motion for moving it on to the second reading for first reading, or this is our first reading.
I move for moving policy number 1250 to a second reading.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so policy number 1250 is moving on to second reading.
Do you want to have any questions by the audience or anything?
Oh, I guess I should have done that, huh?
It's okay. You can still do it.
Is there any questions from the audience on policy 1250? All right, seeing none, we will move on.
The board have comments?
Yes, board comments?
I just want to acknowledge the work that Jenny's done on this. And this has been a labor of love as far as the board goes, getting more student voice and having it be a really authentic experience for them. And so we're really excited to see this move forward. Thank you for doing that.
Thank you.
Looking forward to meeting the students. I think it's going to change things fundamentally for the better.
And getting it moving, yes, absolutely, I agree. All right, we already voted, so do we need to vote? No, just move on to the procedure. All right, the next item is the 1250P procedures for students on governing boards.
So did you just change the verbiage about?
So I
Dress
I didn't change anything. I did remove items. So I removed the item regarding the appropriate dress as well as the academic standing. And I think those were the main items that were discussed.
And then based on this procedure, because this is really just to get things set up, that once it's in place and then we start the spring taking applications, then we'll kind of let the students get together and figure out how they want to operate, and then who will come to the board meetings to represent the student committee council, correct? Because it won't be like all 12 of them would be required for attendance, right? It would just
Yeah,
be
and
two
there was, I think, wording in there that they must attend, and it was changed to must have the ability to attend. Because, yeah, I think number 2, right, on the responsibilities of student reps said attend all regular board meetings, and I did actually just add in the ability to attend.
Okay.
Should we have Clarissa's group take a peek at this to just make sure there's nothing in there?
Take another look at it. Do you mind, Clarissa, if we send that on to you in your groups? Thank
I'm
you.
happy to work with Clarissa on that.
Perfect, thank
Thank you.
It's a good start. It's the procedure, so I think the superintendent just takes maintenance of this.
Yeah, we talked about that actually, about John kind of helping us get it facilitated and started and being our liaison with the schools to try to figure out how to get the next step going.
Happy to help.
I don't think we have to take a vote on this one. It just goes with when the policy passes second reading, the procedure will just
Okay.
flow with it.
Moving it forward.
Yeah.
Okay,
I like it. Thank you, Jenny.
thank you. I'm so glad it's finally moving through.
Yeah,
It's been a long time coming, that's for sure.
It's a good feeling.
exciting.
All right, we're going to go ahead and move on to the next item, which is monitoring district operations, the operational expectation policy OE9, two-way communication with the public for first reading. So I'm going to open up a public hearing. I'm going to say this. So open up the public hearing on operational expectations OE3 and 9 to OE9, the two-way communication with the public.
Yeah, we were going to make a motion to defer until Rob and I had a chance to sit down and review the procedure.
Okay, so, because I think the last time we discussed it, when we were talking about merging these two policies, that there was some questions and clarification,
Right.
and we wanted to give John a chance to kind of take a look at it, so you're going to do some further work. Okay.
We haven't had a chance to line up our schedule.
Okay, all right, so,
There is an appointment now, between now and the next meeting, so if we defer this to the next February meeting, we should be able to
all right.
give a good report.
So I guess I can make a motion that we postpone operational expectation policy OE9 two-way communication with the public until our next meeting in February, and then bring it back as a first reading.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. All right. Is there any comments by the board on this?
Yeah, if possible, I'd like to see it stay as one policy, unless there's some reason to separate it out. Just keeping it concise so that we don't have 1,000,001 different policies. And I'd also like, if there's going to be a potential new policy written with different verbiage, that the board receive those and have chance to have input into it before it comes to a public board meeting, so we have an opportunity to have our input on that.
Are you saying that if like John and Rob take a look at it, and then the recommendation is to keep them like two separate, so 3 and 9, because then it wouldn't just remain in the same language?
Well, it would just
They are?
depend. I mean, if it's changing from what we originally workshopped, I would like to have some compelling information as to why a dramatic change, or, splitting it out or doing something different. I'm not saying it's not good to do that. I'm just saying I want to know why, and I would like to see what the language will be of what it will look like before we're in a public meeting. And I want to be able to have time to give some input on it if we need, so that the board has the chance to have, because we've been working on this for 2 years, and we've had a lot of staff time on it. And so I just want to make sure that we all are on the same page before we come in for any kind of a vote on a first reading.
Any other comments on it?
Okay.
All right.
We could do something like make a Google Doc that we share with public access and put the working words out there so that the public can see it as well as all of us, and just pass the comments on to John, I suppose.
And obviously, our usual suspects, Craig in communications and Clarissa's team, for just keeping things in our equity lens.
Okay. So we are going to go ahead and table that until our next meeting. And next is comments by the board.
I wanted to bring to the board's attention that on the 17th of June will be the town celebration of Juneteenth. It will be at Esther Short Park. I've already spoken with Clarissa about it, and so that she can connect with the powers that be at the city. And I volunteered to help be with them for any kind of whatever we end up doing. I have no idea what that'll look like, because that's, remains to be seen. But I just wanted to let you know that, to get it on your calendar, because it might be kind of fun out there at the park. I've gone to it for a number of years when they've had it at Clark College. I have been invited by NAACP to speak on their panel. And the food is good. The music is even better.
June 17th,
June.
Friday?
Ready?
It's a Friday. Because that Juneteenth actual day is Father's Day.
Ah.
No, so. And I know that the city has kind of taken this under their wing and to try and expand it and all of that. And you know who else is working on it is Holly Williams.
Yeah.
She was a former board member.
Cool.
I recently, I guess it was it last weekend or the weekend before? I can't remember, but I attended the WASDA board meeting in Olympia and the legislative conference. So it was good. We did some planning up there, kind of with our work calendar. Proposed date for our WASDA Region 6 meeting. You're hearing it here first, May 17th. So put that on your calendars. And it looks like it will be in Kelso, because I think they were going to try to host last time, and we weren't able to go. So we're going to try it again.
Got it.
Those are usually evenings, right?
Correct. It's like 6 to 8:30.
Fabulous.
The legislative conference, I guess you watched it with the WASDA board together, was still a virtual presentation. And, last year was just about as fun as this year, by which I mean they actually injected a lot of levity and humor and brought people along. There was background music from time to time. But other than that, the presentation of the combined platform and the talking points that we were going to use with the meetings with legislators in the week on the Hill. I can talk in detail about that later, but we met with Monica Stonier, Paul Harris, Linda Wilson, and Sharon Wiley. And then just today, Congresswoman Jamie Herrera Butler, who took great interest and expressed specific support for digital equity, for the right to repair bill that WASDA is in support of. It's to repair digital devices the district owns rather than sending it off. Apparently there are changes in the law that are necessary there. We were able to thank her for voting yes on federal impact aid for the state, which isn't a direct impact here, but it was a relief to school districts who have military bases on in their district boundaries and other federally owned lands with families on them that still come to the schools. And that was a really good conversation today. Crystal Maldenhauer of Longview was along with that. And we learned that she has a lot of alignment with and support for public education. Those were pretty good moments.
I guess I would like to say I was on our website today, and I absolutely love the sliding page of the Black History Month on there. That was great just to see it. It was I was surprised to see it, just the full page of it. Usually our website is topic of a lot of conversations, so it was great. Also, the the unified message on all of our school reader boards is great to see that it's every single one of our schools has the same message out there that our Black community matters, and I love to see all of that on all of our reader boards. Other than that, I don't have anything. I'm just glad to be here tonight. We missed last board meeting.
Glad you're healthy.
Yes, glad to be healthy. All right. Any future agenda items?
I have a future agenda item to propose. We've had some, I think, some confusion about our board expenditures as a board for our work. And so what I'd like to suggest is that we have an agenda item to have to develop a board policy talking about the expenditures of the board ourselves, because we do have a line item on the budget, and I want to make sure that we're following consistent procedures when money is spent. And I'll be happy to spearhead that, so nobody has to take it on. I'd probably connect with Jennifer, if she will let me, to it's been a while since I've looked at that line item and looked at things, so that's my recommendation.
Okay, perfect. Any other agenda items? Nope. Okay. Next agenda item is our citizens' comments. Any citizen wishing to address the board about an item not on tonight's meeting agenda may do so during the designated time, as long as the comments are not personnel related or about an individual employee or student and are not legal in nature. Each speaker will be allowed 3 minutes to address the board. And the first person we have signed up tonight is Dan, is it Miklas? Do you need anything?
I stutter. When I was younger, I stuttered, but not too bad, and I worked through it pretty well. Now, from time to time, I stutter, and if I do over the next few minutes, then please bear with me. Was my stutter a gift from God to keep me humble? Was my stutter also given to me to put me in and remind me to always be in submission to God? My vote equals yes. Thanks be to God. Here's my theme. It's from Ephesians 5:11. Take no part in the unfruitful works of darkness, but instead expose them. This speech has some rhetorical questions in it. As you know, and as the folks who lead the education system, you know that questions can be thought-provoking and can help people learn. These questions are based on truth and facts, and I have, but won't read the footnotes. I can provide the footnotes to you if you'd like them. Number 1, do you serve the best interests of we the people? Number 2, do you know that masks don't work? Number 3, do you know that masks are bad for health? Number 4, do you know that masks are about control? Number 5, do you know Scott Miller, based in Washougal, Washington? He can provide you with information on the lack of effectiveness of masks. The information is known around the world. Number 6, have you seen the American Sniper movie scene called Sheepdog? In it, the father explains to his 2 sweet gifts from God, his 2 boys, that there are 3 types of people in this world: sheep, sheepdog, and wolf. Which of these are you? Let's find out. The information on masks is available globally and for all to see. That proves that there is evil in the world and evil in the mask. So you are not sheep. You do not overpower the evil of the mask, and you do not protect the flock from the evil of the mask. You are not the sheepdog that we all expected. In fact, you take part in the evil. You are not sheep, and you are not sheepdog. You are all wolves. Number 7. Do you think it's important to understand how your actions impact others? If you did, then you would not put our children into torture each day they come to school. Number 8, do you think that masks are torture for the gifts from God that we call children? Number 9, Fauci also tortured gifts from God that were those puppies. Number 10, both the children and the puppies are and were in a submissive position, respectively, So are you like Fauci for what you do each day to the children? In closing, I'm open to feedback. So how did I do? If you don't understand my points based on the truth and facts, then I have one last question for you. Did I stutter? One more thing too. Will this citizen portion be censored again?
Thank you for your comments. The next we have on the list is Tim Lindquist, and I believe he is Zoom, virtual. Tim,
Hello. Yep, I'm here.
go ahead.
I'm going to talk about tag tonight. Yes, tag, the childhood game known and loved by all. Tag has created joy and been a healthy outlet for play amongst youth for centuries. Some quick facts about tag. It was invented in 1738. It's a professional sport. The supposed longest running game of tag, still ongoing, started between a group of friends in Washington in the 1980s. That's 4 decades of tag, for those counting. Why am I so interested in tag? Tag was canceled at the start of the pandemic. Wrongfully accused of spreading COVID instead of joy, Tag got an unfair sentence with no trial. I'd like to see justice restored for Tag. I don't want us to be responsible for him missing his 300th birthday after all. My kids introduced me to a game this summer called Shadow Tag. I have to admit it was a creative adaptation where the kids tag their shadows instead of each other. When I asked what they were going to do for the other 9 months out of the year here, they were stumped. The ever clever younger one said we should move to Arizona where the sun stays out all year. Not a bad idea, especially during these gray months. No, I think it's time for the year-round version to come back here. I'd like to request a proclamation that tag is a healthy, vital part of childhood that we welcome at Evergreen schools, preferably applied retroactively to clear tag's good name. I'm being a bit tongue-in-cheek, but this is an actual policy at my kids' school right now. They can't play tag because they have to touch and be within 3 feet to tag. I'm using tag as an example of very real consequence of overly protective policies that do active harm to our kids with regard to COVID. Tag may seem insignificant by itself. The problem is not tag, it is what it represents. By telling kids they cannot touch, play, interact, we have taught them to be afraid of one another. That people are vectors of disease to be feared, not loved. Worst of all, these overly aggressive interpretations of CDC and state guidelines are teaching kids that school is unsafe and not fun. We have to work just as hard to reverse these trends as we did to put them in place. It's not anybody's fault. I don't care who canceled tag. I want to know who's going to start with this small first step of bringing it back. It's near guaranteed to pull 100% for clemency. Once we see that tag is safe, we can bring back sitting with friends at lunch, facing both directions, and talking about Pokemon, Bakugan, or whatever other things only kids seem to know about. This process can start now. It should start now. It needs to start now. I'm serious that my kids can't play tag and that I want them to be able to. More importantly, I want them to be able to be kids again. I don't want them to feel like playing tag or soccer or basketball or high-fiving or hugging are dangerous. They aren't vectors of disease, they are children. They do not deserve to shoulder all of our burdens because they're resilient. They shouldn't have to be. That's our job. Their job is to be kids, to run and jump and hop and skip and laugh and hug and talk and whisper secrets and yes, play tag. I have a resource that I'd like to share with you after this. I will send it by email. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Tim. All right, next is Gary Wilson.
I was going to speak on school funding, but I've changed my mind. But I was going to read an article from the Daily Signal titled, "Despite what they say, public schools have plenty of funding," dated January 28th. But rather than do that, I really just wanted to ask a question. First off, last month at the Vancouver School Board meeting, Ray Reynolds, who is running for sheriff, you may have seen his signs around town, he spoke. He's on the Diversity, Inclusion, and Equity Committee in the Vancouver School District, and he gave a 7-minute comment, and I imagine maybe none of you have heard it, and I wanted to ask if at the next board meeting, if I showed up with 2 other people and we all 3 signed up for public comment, if we would be able to play the video comment in its entirety. And if you can't answer tonight, if you can just call me or email me. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary.
Just for clarification, Gary, would you mind sending it to the board so we can see it?
I believe we all got a copy.
Sure.
Did we get a?
I mean,
got it.
if I can, I mean,
haven't seen it.
I'll, have to get probably approval. And I wanted to get approval from Ray to be able to play it, so that's why I didn't do it tonight. So, thank you. But I'm sorry, it'd be good if it could be played during the meeting, just so it's on record and for Evergreen, so I appreciate it.
Thank you. All right, so at this time, it's 6:22, and we are going to go into recess to sign documents, and then we will return for a workshop on legislative updates, followed by an executive session to evaluate candidates for Board of Director, open position District 4. Thank you. We're going to get started. And get everybody out of here. All right, are we ready, Lori? All right, we're going to go ahead and come back to session into our workshop, and we're going to go over the next item on the agenda, which is our legislative update.
Good evening. We, like I said a little before, we had the week on the Hill, and what I thought I'd just talk a little bit. I'm going to give you some bill numbers and some general, I guess, categories or groupings that match what WASA, WASDA, WASBO as the 3 advocacy groups that usually work together. And, right at the top of all of these lists are issues about staffing allocations and issues about budget stability. And the bills that are going forward, it seems, would raise the school nurses, social workers, psychologists, guidance counselors, classified staff providing safety, and so forth, to the levels in Initiative 1351, which, as you know, was passed many years ago and never completely funded by the legislature. What they're doing is they're proposing an enhancement to those allocations in a new category. So physical, social, and emotional support staff would have one block of categorized funding, and districts would have the local control to hire the right people for each school. When we were talking with Monica Stonier on the 49th, she had the numbers for Evergreen in front of her. She was obviously tracking this very closely, and she had the data to support it. And to that, and then she also had the story of my son to support it. So you're watching for House Bill, Senate 5595 or House Bill 1985. And I'm not sure at this point what the vehicle is going to be, but and then there was another bill introduced there, 1664, all of them covering the same idea. So we were able to explain the gaps in staffing, how we prioritize that, what the ESSER funds were doing and when they're going away and so forth. When we talked about budget stability, the bills are 1590 in the House or 5563 in the Senate to provide proportional enrollment stabilization amounts if the state revenue generated in the 21-22 school year is less than what its combined state revenue would be using in 1920 enrollment amounts. And there we were able to talk about, staffing shortages, budget stability, where the dollars are coming from. So those 5 bills kind of dovetail together to, if they were to pass in a way that supports us, would enhance basic education, maybe have a little bit of levy relief with student supports like the counselors. The STARS formula, transportation formula stuff was Rep. Stonier's House Bill 1808, and that appears to have traction. So we could be seeing some reform there. And then we talked about a little bit with some about simple majority for bonds, but there wasn't a lot of faith in motion for that all the way to the constitutional amendment proposal that it would require. So that's ongoing work. In total, found a lot of bipartisan support for much of this. There's a little bit of a division over how to structure it to make sure in Senator Wilson's terms, make sure that the money intended for student supports gets to student supports. So they're watching out for an accountability measure there. But I feel a lot of optimism about this session. I think we're going to come out pretty well supported, and it's only about 5 weeks left. This will end at the end of March, middle of March, end of March, and
yeah, and the calls that I've been on have expressed that same optimism for all of the things that you mentioned. And by the way, that was just a very succinct and well done overview, and I appreciate that. You're the first person that's been able to describe all of the bills in that way to get me up to speed, so thanks for that overview.
Have you had contact meetings with Melissa Gomboski in the last 2 weeks?
Yep, we've been meeting fairly regularly, and I was on a call with Stonier as well to talk about a paraeducator bill, which is another one that we're puzzling through to make sure that our paraeducators get training and up and speed quickly that she's sponsoring.
Ongoing work yeah. That's it. That's the summary. I could send the hot topics to you. The document I'm referring to has got the word draft on it, but I don't think the principles are very different. I'll just forward it to the whole board. And yeah, this concludes.
That sounds good. Perfect.
All right. Anything else on legislative? Do you need some? No? Okay. All right. Well, that's actually a wrap for our evening. We are going to go ahead and go into an executive session where we're going to evaluate candidates for the open board of directors position, district number 4. Thank you for joining us and have a good evening.